Kiran, I understand that you're involved in some new research in this area, and I'd love you to share that information with us.
Yeah, it's some very exciting work actually, based on spores and what they do in the body. So the first one we did was on liver failure patients actually, and this is on a condition called hepatic encephalopathy. Hepatic encephalopathy is basically too high ammonia levels in the blood. It causes a swelling. People can suffer from all kinds of issues, including death, very suddenly from this. Now, the reason why this happens is because when you digest proteins, for example, in your gut, one of the byproducts of protein digestion is ammonia. And when you build up ammonia in your gut, it clears through the portal system, which then goes to the liver, and it's your liver's responsibility to get rid of the ammonia. So for people in liver failure, people who have liver issues, psoriasis and things like that, they can't clear the ammonia as well, so the ammonia seeps into the blood, increases ammonia levels in the blood, which becomes very dangerous. So having that excessive gas production in the gut is a major problem for them. Hydrogen, methane, all of those things actually are problematic. And so we did a fairly large-scale study, about 68, 70 patients who are liver failure patients with these particular spores. And what we were able to show is a significant decrease in the amount of ammonia and other gas production in liver failure patients. And if we can do it in liver failure patients, we can do it in regular patients much easier. Mm-hmm. And this was in the presence of rifaximin, which is an antibiotic that most of these liver failure patients take chronically. And rifaximin is known as an antibiotic that stays in the gut the longest period of time. That's why they use it. They use it for, food poisoning, things like that as well. So these spores work in the presence of this horrific antibiotic to reduce ammonia and improve the blood levels of these patients. So that's a significant study. So anyone that you have that suffers from gas, bloating, IBS type of symptoms where they have excessive bloating due to food intolerances and things like that, these spores really bring down the gas production within the gut. And we've shown it now in liver failure patients, which is a very sensitive population, so the safety is unparalleled as well. Now, the second study is actually even more exciting. I'm sure you know, and everybody who comes to your site and listens to your work knows about leaky gut, right? Mm-hmm. Leaky gut is a huge issue. In fact, now more and more we're starting to see that leaky gut really is the cause of many of the long-term chronic illnesses like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, the chronic inflammation that we experience within the body. And leaky gut happens because the intestinal barrier opens up due to inflammation in the mucosa, and bacterial endotoxins, bacterial components, digestive components all seep through and cause this massive inflammation chronically in our body. And that really increases the risk for virtually every chronic disease there is. Dementia, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmunity, the list goes on and on and on. So if we can resolve leaky gut, we can really, really curb the risk factors for many of these diseases. What we are doing right now is the very first human clinical trial on a probiotic to show that it resolves leaky gut with these particular spores. We're working with the University of North Texas. We're working in human volunteers. In fact, you can cause leaky gut in people who are sensitive to it by giving them a very high-fat, high-caloric meal, right? So and it has to be bad fat, things like really bad saturated fats or PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids, very high caloric meal. What it does, that single meal, it causes a huge die-off of gram-negative bacteria, which releases a bunch of LPS, which is an endotoxin. That causes a bunch of inflammation in the mucosal and epithelial lining of the gut. And if you're susceptible to leaky gut, that causes an opening of the intestinal barrier, and you can actually see all those endotoxins leaking into the person's serum. We have them sit there for 5 hours and measure the serum counts of these endotoxins for every hour over the next 5 hours. And what you can see is a huge increase in bacterial endotoxins in the system over the next 5-hour period. So this is called postprandial endotoxemia. Postprandial means after a meal. Endotoxemia is the endotoxic response. Now, guess what kind of meal it is that we feed these poor subjects to give them this endotoxemia? It's a McDonald's breakfast. It's one of the best ways to create a huge endotoxic response. So if you want leaky gut, eat a McDonald's breakfast. That's the the thing. It's amazing. And here's the crazy thing about it is you can actually measure the inflammation from that single meal in the body for the next 15 days.
Wow.
It takes the body almost 15 days to recover from that single meal. So there are people out there that consume these types of meals 3, 4, 5 times a week, if not once every day. And so what we were able to show is we're taking patients, and now we're finishing the study. We're doing the larger portion of the study right now, which will end in May. But the initial pilot portion of the study showed some amazing results with these spores. What we're seeing is we're taking subjects, we're giving them this meal challenge. We can sit down and measure the endotoxic response in their body over the next 5 hours. Then we send them home with 30-day supply of these same spores, and then they come back 30 days later. No other changes, no dietary changes, no other therapies, nothing else, just whatever they do on their daily basis. And they come back 30 days later, and we give them the same meal challenge. What we've seen in every single case is a total flat line of endotoxic response, meaning we are completely sealing the gut in 30 days. With this probiotic. So this is the first time a probiotic has ever been demonstrated to have an impact on resolving leaky gut. And that is a huge, huge area. So we're going to wait till the larger study data comes out to really kind of publicize it. You're one of the first people that have heard about this. Your audience will be some of the first people that have actually heard about this. So it's kind of a sneak preview of what we're doing. But the way it does it, is actually it improves the actual architecture of the intestines. So the spores have been shown in other studies to increase the expression of something called claudin and occludin proteins. These are 40 different types of proteins that control the tight junctions of the cells. Right? So when these proteins are not expressed as well or don't function as well, the cells in the intestinal barrier open up, and there you have the leakiness. When you have the increased expression of them, they function better, and they stay tight and shut. Now, the other thing that it does is it actually increases the height of the microvilli in the small intestine. We all know that the small intestine is made up of these great little finger-like objects called microvilli. What they do is they increase the surface area of the small intestine and increases the absorption of nutrients and things like that. Now, you see in people with celiac disease or Crohn's or people who have really degenerative diseases in the gut, what you see is a shortening of the microvilli over time. You see this in something called HIV enteropathy as well. So about 65% of HIV-positive people suffer from a condition called HIV enteropathy, where their gut lining is basically being degraded by the virus. And what you start to see is a shrinking of the microvilli. Same with celiac. And so when you have a probiotic bacteria that can actually increase the height of the microvilli, what we're doing is regenerating intestines. We're rebuilding the intestine. It's amazing. And that's where we're seeing the results from how we can seal up the gut in the presence of these toxins and all that as well. So those are two of the very exciting studies we're doing. A third study that we're starting right now is going to be an immunological study. We're looking further at the improvements of the body's T regulatory system in the presence of spores, the one that regulates all the unfavorable immune responses, the autoimmune responses, the allergies, people with Hashimoto's, rheumatoid arthritis, all those types of things. And then the last one, the fourth study we're working on, which we should be starting sometime in the next couple of months, is very much an IBS study. Focus on people with a lot of belly distension, chronic constipation, and diarrhea, and looking at actually reversing the condition of IBS rather than just kind of mitigating the symptoms. And so we're working with another doctor on that as well. So some very exciting studies coming out in the next few months that show that these spores have such a huge functional benefit in the gut. And there's no, and it's no surprising that we evolved with them over the last, 4 or 5 million years through the course of human evolution. We've got this amazing symbiotic relationship with them. We provide them a home, and they fix our home. That's what they do.